Well, hello there. My name is Stef Winterboer and you are watching Safari Live.
Ready. Standing by.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Welcome and good afternoon to everybody, or welcome to the Sunset Drive here with Safari. We're at Djuma Private Game Reserve and I am Stef, and on camera today we have Dave. Now, I'm going to sneak across the Vulture dam wall here. We're not supposed to do this and I'm very, very sorry. But I'm sneaking away for a good reason. There's a bushbuck busy alarm calling like crazy just off to the side over here. And I'm 100% sure that Terry and Tack would both appreciate me finding a leopard 10 minutes before they leave for a drive. Is I just want to get into a position where we can capitalize on anything coming down, cut as I can.
Last audio, it's just the mace.
All right. We're having a bit of an audio problem, but it seems to be back now. I'll just keep that over there. So back to what we're doing. We've got a bushbuck that's been alarm calling, a bushbuck or a nyala that was alarm calling just here. And I thought that we'd take a little bit of a chance by coming off here, coming across the dam wall to see if we can find what was giving this bushbuck a big alarm call. And I think I'm going to go in here and see what is doing it. While I'm doing that, oh, the wind has picked up. That's pretty weird. It's been pretty quiet for the rest of the day. But anyway, we're going to send you over to Brent while I stick my nose into this bush over here and see what I can find for you.
Welcome on today's Sunset Safari. I am Brent Leo Smith and I have a Brian Joubert and a visitor from the far east today. Was that right? Was that wrong? No, it is from the far north. Far north. So we had the far east yesterday, I think, and the far north today. A little red fox. And we've got some kudus who are quite scared of the little red fox. Now, of course, red fox are indigenous to Africa. Did you know that, Brian?
I didn't.
They're only indigenous to North Africa, around Morocco. And there's quite a few remnant populations of European species in that area. The red fox, the red deer, as well as a population of grey wolves. These are, of course, very African animals. And the greater kudu, the largest of the kudu species. And no big bulls here, just a couple of youngsters, some females, some even more young individuals. Now it is quite windy today, and that could be why they're a little bit jumpy. And they do have those wonderful, massive ears to help pick up any danger that might be slinking after them in the thickets. Oh. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the rule with kudu is for every one you see, there's probably 3 you can't. Let's move a little bit closer. There's a nice young male close to the road. Oh, well, he's moved off, but the female's still there. said, it's this windy weather. It's keeping them on their toes a bit. See how even though he's not facing us, he's listening to us. Pointing those ears backwards, but off they go. Now, it looks like Steph's on a hot clue already on this sunset safari. Bushbuck alarming around Vulture, so fingers crossed that it's one of our spotted friends that's there. Well, Valeria in Massachusetts says she loves the fox thumb. Was the fox thumb going to make another appearance? Right, there it is. It's very quick. Got to watch out for those sly foxes. Unfortunately, I wonder if that fox thumb is going to get into the hen coop this evening, Brian. Maybe. Oh. Well, there we go. Raisa says, what a lovely ketu, which is a fox in Finnish. Well, there we go. Brian and I definitely learned something new today. Ketu is a fox in Finnish. Now we're going to have a quick gamble past Sydney's Waterhole. It's really warm today. It's about 31 or 32 degrees Celsius, so mid-90s Fahrenheit. And who knows, maybe the Ellies are thirsty. Well, it seems like the little fox has caused quite the conversation, Brian. Now, Jane in New York says for the last 3 years, she's been lucky enough to have a red fox denning in her garden. And every spring, she gets to see the little kits. And I would love to see a little baby fox one day. I think that'd be very, very cute. Now, because of Brian's foxy thumb, let's see if anyone, apart from the red fox that I've already told you, lives in the Atlas Mountains in Morocco. Who can tell me how many other species of fox occur in Africa? So I'd like to know what are the other species and how many species of fox occur in Africa. If you know the answer to that one, pop me an email, questions@wildearth.tv, or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter.
Herbert there.
Just listening to the... you can listen to with Steph.
Directly west of the junction of Central and Gowrie cut line in the drainage line. Maybe a little bit further to the north of that.
So Herbie's out. So Steph's just letting Herbie know exactly where those alarm calls are, so we can stay with you on the vehicle.
Support them. I'll go chat.
And Herbie can go have a look. And it seems like we're late on the elephant front. There have definitely been quite a lot of them heading towards the Waterhole. You can see lots of tracks going down, but none of them there at the moment. So I think let's go check the next closest waterhole, which is Red Dam in Arethusa. I was on my way to Arethusa this morning when I suddenly got the call about the Styx Pride on that buffalo kill and rushed off down there. Okay, So while we make our way towards Red Dam, let's go see how Steph's search for the bushbuck that was alarming is going.
All right, and welcome back. We've got my audio thing sorted out. It sounds like we're busy working here, and this is the little magician here that was giving us some trouble. It was this connection. We've now plastered it with the magic tape that we all carry over here. The stuff is sorcery in a roll. And yes, so back to the bushbuck. So the alarm call was coming from exactly here, exactly in here between us and that tree you see with the bird's nest in over there. And you see that bird's nest there in the top of the tree? We were underneath that bird's nest. Go right a bit in the center. Yes, that squiggle of twigs in the top of that knobthorn, that is exactly where we were when we heard the alarm calls coming from between us and them. I actually thought that it was on the junction of this particular road, which is why I raced across the dam all like I did. I thought that we were going to see or a leopard or a cheetah. That is exactly what that bushbuck sounded like it had seen. It was one of those frantic ba 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 barks, and then as it's running you can hear it going ba 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 as it's running away. So definitely a predator somewhere here. I'm possibly sure it's either lion, cheetah or leopard, just from the franticness. Bushbuck really don't feature on the or high up on the menu for lion, and they tend to give an alarm call that's watching the lion. So they'll alarm call from a standing position, not running away for their lives. But because it's not on the road and because I can't find any tracks, I've called Herbie into the area, and he's able to get off the car and walk in here and have a look for some tracks. No tracks on this road, so I'm pretty sure it's in the drainage line between us and there. And that's basically it. That's the story that has happened between now and since you left us with all that stuff. So I think let's just carry on down Central. You may find with all of our frantic moving around over here that whatever it is has actually come out. But I'm not going to spend too much time tracking, don't worry. A, I'm not very good at it, and B, it doesn't, I'm not very good at it, and it's not that exciting to watch me tracking because most of the time I'm just looking at fresh air. But what I would like to ask your help for, if you don't mind, for those of you who keep a weather eye open on that damn cam at Vulture, please do me the favor, or do us all the favor, of watching that damn cam and just every now and again seeing if you can see Impala scurrying about or if you can hear anything. Absolutely, that's going to give us a big help. No tracks of any leopard on Djuma this morning, so whatever it is, it's moving in our direction. So while I've just been scanning for some tracks over there in the drainage line, Brock, all the way from Pennsylvania, good afternoon firstly, Brock. You've asked where you're from. The antelope tend to only move around at night time and rest up during the day, where it seems a little bit opposite here. Brock, yes, I would say that that's the truth. Here, our antelope species are generally more active in the daytime than they are at night, but they are active at night time. But I will agree with you, round about full moon, animals will be more active, or daytime animals will be more active at night time. And then absolutely, as soon as the sun comes up, there's this increase in activity, and then a decrease in the hottest time of the day, and then an increase again just around sunset, where animals feed up for the last little bit of activity. Is it because of predators and lion and leopard is the second portion of your question there? I would say yes, it is. I would say that it's easier and less dangerous for animals to lie up in a protected place at nighttime where they can listen for the approach of any lion or leopard than it is to have to feed, have their head in the grass, look up every now and again and feed again. So I would say absolutely it's because of the predator pressure that we have here. I presume though that where you're from and where your antelope are from, there still are predators, even if it's just mountain lion or bobcat, and wolves perhaps. I'm not too familiar with where Pennsylvania is in the whole scheme of things. But perhaps you have a wolf. They would be daytime animals. But just so yes, in conclusion, there was just a waterbuck a million miles away that caught my attention there. I would say yes, in conclusion, animals are more active in the day than they are at night because of predators. That's what I'd like to say about that one. Let's see if we can see. A lot of things catching my eye over here. There's no doubt that there's a predator here because of this attention. There is that typical over-the-shoulder pose of a steenbuck. One of our dwarf antelope. That is full grown, believe it or not. And that pose that they've got there, that this little guy's got there, that over-the-shoulder pose, almost like you are insulting them by watching them, is very typical of a steenbuck. With a naked eye, I'm unable to see if it's a male or a female, and now that it's run away, it will be impossible to tell you what it was. No? I think it was a little female. The lack of horns would have been evident if it was a female. Males tend to have these little spiky horns, probably about this long, about as long as my finger, on top of their head, straight up. And in areas where they're very common, one of the most common, and they love the deserts. It's one of the most common antelope in the deserts. And I spent some time with some bushmen, the sand people, a couple of years ago, and every bushman had a satchel over his shoulder that was made up of the skin of one of these little steenbuck. And inside the satchel was a bunch of horn containers, basically. And the horned containers were actually filled with a variety of different things. One had some salt in it, some sugar. Another one had some poison for their arrows. And when I asked, do you just kill these antelope for their horns and for the skin? They said, it was pretty obvious after I asked the question, no, they actually trap these antelope for their meat firstly, and then they utilize the rest of the antelope as much as what they can. So the sinews they use for arrow twine, or just bow twine at least anyway. Their skin they use for satchels, their entire skin. Their horns they use for stoppers. They make bone needles out of their bones. Apparently their bones are relatively brittle and they make bone needles, but I'll carry on with that story now. What you're looking at is a magnificent southern yellow-billed hornbill. And it's a male because of that patch of red that they have underneath their bill. From this particular angle, you can just see that patch of red under his eye, underneath his bottom beak. And doesn't that look like just the single most bizarre thing to have to attach to your face in order to fly around? It's not aerodynamic in any way. Definitely doesn't lessen the weight that bird has to carry around. And yet, the hornbills are some of the most widely spread birds in Africa. You find hornbills from the tropics, from jungle. There he goes. All the way into the desert. Not quite into sand desert, but you find them all the way into just on the periphery of the desert. And what that beak does is, yes, it's a bit of a weight disadvantage, and it's not aerodynamic, so they're not birds that migrate very far or fly very far indeed, but it's a fantastic lever to open up food sources, potential food sources. They're insectivores. They eat any variety of insect. They'll even eat things like small snakes, baby mice, but generally they just eat insects, termites, and they use that bill to pry open and lever open bits and pieces of sand and twigs and branches and bark. And I had a friend who brought one of these up in their house, and it was the most ingenious bird that you've ever seen in your life. Really could get into any nook and cranny and would investigate almost anything. And so that disadvantage of the weight and of the aerodynamics is made up for by a slightly larger brain and the ability for this bird to use that beak in any variety of uses. So southern ground hornbill, although it looks a bit comical with a big banana stuck to its face, it isn't actually at a disadvantage because of it at all. All right, so Herbert's fresh on the trail of whatever it was that was making that bushbuck shout, and so out of mind for me at the moment. And what I want to do is, today's been hot. It's been about 79 degrees or 89 degrees Fahrenheit. Hold on one second, Herbert's calling me. Go with your message, Herbert. Herbert, if you go down Wahlberg's Road to the junction of Twin Dams at the Wahlberg's Nest, if you just walk straight north from there towards the cut line and the central junction, it was in between Central Junction, Gary cut line, and Wahlberg's Junction, Twin Dams. Sorry, so what I needed to do there was just give Herbert the exact location. All right, what I'm going to do is, I think, while we're coming down to the end of this road and while I'm trying to direct Herbert into the area so that he's most effective and so that I don't bump into a tree with the car, maybe a good idea, send you over to Brent, see what he's up to.
So we're still in search of elephants, and if we look on the road, there's elephant tracks heading straight towards Red Dam. So maybe we'll get lucky and the eddies will be there, splashing away. Oh, well done, Valeria, in Massachusetts, the fox quiz. And I even forgot one of those, but it is correct, the Ruppel's fox up in Ethiopia. The fennec, which is also up North Africa. It looks like we missed the elephants, they've been and gone. But there is a hippopotami, and then in Southern Africa, the bat-eared fox and the Cape fox. But look, that hippo's got a hitchhiker. Now, here's a little hinged terrapin, using him as a safe sunbathing spot, because there's very little out here that's going to try tangle with a hippo. Now, this is one of the lucky hippos, or of the solitary bulls we see, and a Red Dam has still got quite a bit of water in it. The favorite Hornbill, Tingana and Shadow. And I always like to check around the corner here, because many times there could be a big cat sleeping in the little river system that runs into water. Not today, unfortunately. But I have found Tingana there, I found Shadow there. Well, not much else happening here. So let's carry on. I think I'm in the mood for a bit of the Marikana River. What do you think, Brian? A little riverbed cruise? Nice hot day like this, good spot to look for leopards, nice big trees, shade. Now, Cody's wondering how many prey animals actually make it to old age. Well, Cody, it all depends on your definition of old age. I'd say very few things die of old age, but once they get to old age, they get caught. So probably one of the only animals that dies of old age, and in old age probably starvation or thirst, is elephant, and rhino, probably your two that'll make it all the way through. Okay, we're in the Marikeni River. Now what I'm hoping is that those elephants have drunk and then they've spread through to feed in the bush along the Marikeni. Now, some of the only flowers that are out at the moment are in the Marikeni, and we'll have a look for them. Here's the culprits who are leaving all the tracks on the road. Not the big elephant tracks, of course, but I did see a lot of antelope tracks. And here's a big herd of Impala. What do we know? Just look at them taking advantage of some of the greenery that's still in the drainage system. Now, I'm pretty sure this Impala herd just had a drink at Red Dam from their tracks. I'm also just keeping quiet and listening. Elephants might let us know where they are. You can just hear the pitter-patter of Impala feet. Okay. Let's keep moving. So far, just tracks of Impala and Nyala. The elephant tracks seem to have gone out that way. Now, while we leave those Impala, Steph has got another wonderful antelope to show you.
Welcome back. We have some Kudu here. It's a breeding herd of Kudu. So there's a baby here. I saw one baby. It's now hidden behind that bush. Not a baby, I suppose a teenager would be more correct. But what is amazing is that they are eating the leaves of this Natal guarri bush, Euclea divinorum. And Euclea has a lot of tannin in it. It's one of the most termite resistant trees out here. It's also a very hardy tree. It's a evergreen, as you can see. And it is singularly one of the most unpleasant leaves to eat. The tree itself is actually quite remarkable in that it produces a compound that it stores in its root bark that actually kills the tuberculosis bacteria. I think it is a bacteria. Yes, it's a bacteria. That actually kills the tuberculosis bacteria and has been used for the last couple of years in TB treatment. Now, while I don't think these kudu suffer from TB, and that's why they're eating the leaves, it is quite remarkable that a tree that can have such a useful compound in its root has such an unpleasant taste. But what I'm actually trying to get at is the fact that these kudu are busy eating these leaves, which they don't usually eat at any other time of the year. I can only imagine that the tree has withdrawn some of its more hectic unpleasant compounds in this dry season, and it's letting the leaves become a little bit more tasty towards these kudu. That said, kudu do eat a very, very wide variety of plant, about 150 different species in actual fact. Look at this. Isn't she beautiful? Long nose, and that's to get her lips deeper into the bush, keep thorns away from her eyes. You get that long nose, huge ears, diagnostic feature of these kudu. Constantly swinging around her head. Let's see what she does when she's finished with this mouthful. I mean, to be honest, if they can actually digest the leaves of this guarri tree, it's almost an uncontested food source for them. I've seen elephant eating guarri this year, but they don't eat a lot of it. I haven't ever seen black rhino eat the twigs and leaves of a guarri tree. Perhaps they do, I'm not too sure. I haven't seen enough black rhino in my life to know. But yeah, they definitely are. I mean, there's no doubt. And not just one or two mouthfuls. This kudu is literally shoving the leaves down. She's able to reach up quite high. She's probably about a head taller than me if she had to stand up straight with her head up straight. And with her nose pointed to the sky. The maximum that they'd be able to reach into a tree. They don't jump against the tree, similar to how a jennerook would, or a goat. They don't jump against trees, or climb into them like goats do, at least anyway. Another quite nice thing is there in the distance. I'm going to show you quickly. Wait, we'll first look at this kudu busy eating before I show you why I actually came onto this road. Oh, she is beautiful. Have a look at that coat that she's got. Expertly blends into the shade. I mean, we do know there's a kudu there. It's very obvious. There's only one stick that's actually hiding her. But you can imagine, I mean, just look at her face, how camouflaged her face is behind those leaves and twigs. The perfect color. That white stripe and the white lips, different colors, the counter shading on the head, making that kudu's head disappear. Not there. So Monique, good afternoon Monique, all the way from London. You've asked, does the word kudu translate into English, and does it mean something like ginormous ears? Monique, as far as I have it, kudu is a phonetic name from the sound that it makes when a kudu jumps. They jump first front legs, then back legs, and it's kudu, kudu when they're running through the bush. That is how I was told a kudu was named. It has nothing to do with it being a weird African name for it having big ears and white lips or anything like that. But nice, that was a nice guess. I like that. No, from what I can gather, it's just from their name. Their scientific name is Tragelaphus strepticeros, which doesn't sound like it has anything to do with the word kudu to me. And generally, what people are lately trying to do is to make the scientific name or the binomial name as similar to the common name as they can. It's one of the reasons why all the bird names were changed in South Africa a couple of years back. And old hats like me just sort of stubbornly stick to the old names. It's only because I'm too lazy to learn the new ones, to be quite honest. But taxonomy is something that's changing all the time, and the common names for these animals have been developing over time. And what you'd normally find is that when you go into the binomial name or the scientific name, it would have some correlation to the common name, possibly. In this particular case, not. And like I said, from what I was told, and this is by my dear friend and tracker, Richard in Duban, he said to me it's the sound that kudu make when they run, that kudu, kudu, as they're running away. And they do run with a distinct kudu sound. Alrighty, and off we go. That kudu has now left the building, and what I want to take you to is down there. You'll see the crown of a very big tree there, and it's green. And that is, as far as I can gather, the healthiest weeping boer bean at Djuma, and also the most likely place that we are likely to see flowers, and my ongoing search for flowering weeping boer beans and all the life that they contain. Now, we left this morning's safari without us being able to get to that tree, but I have almost all the time I need to get there now, unless of course Wendy breaks down before we get there. And she's been such a nice lady. She's treated us very, very well since she's come back from the hospital. So Antlers Coffee, you're a new viewer, so first I want to say welcome aboard to the largest safari vehicle on earth. Welcome to the community. I'm sure you are already figuring out that everyone knows one another, and it's all such an epically, I suppose, dynamic little community that we have of ourselves. And you've asked me, why don't we see any rhino? Is it because rhino are deeper into the park? To be honest with you, we don't actually show rhino on drives for... Let's have a look at this quickly. I'll come back to your rhino question now. We've just got a rare occurrence here. Oh, there we go. Right here in the tree on the bent bough is an African hoopoe. Go up a bit. Up to the left, wrong tree, sorry. This one here. Oh, there we go. Don't worry. We'll see if we can get him. You got him there, Dan? Okay. Let's go forward a little bit. That is an African hoopoe giving us a brilliant view of himself. I will be with you in a second with that rhino question. I won't forget, to promise. Just one of the most beautiful of all the little birds that we have over here is this African hoopoe. Quite often carved in wood and painted because of their very pretty colors and that crest. Have a look at that. That's beautiful, eh? Such a lovely little bird. Digs out insects and worms and antlions and ants and termites with that little bill. As its name would suggest, its call sounds like it's saying hoop hoop. Look at those colors. I don't quite know, you know, I'm not the very best at describing colors. I mean, I would say that that's a tanny brown color. Although I'm sure a few of you ladies out there, and gentlemen perhaps as well, are out there saying that it might be, I don't know, yellow tan with a bluish after image or whatever we call it. Jean-Andre would be much better at telling me that. He's fantastic with these colors. There it's sitting in the tree. And they do that, you know, they go from the ground to the trees and the ground again. By no means a rare bird out here. It's quite a common bird. However, we don't usually see them from this close or for this long or without some or other type of obstruction in the way. Excuse me. All right, now back to the rhino question. So one of the reasons why the very reason why we don't show rhino, we don't actually show rhino on the show. So even if there was one walking into the picture or we see one on drive, we don't put it on the camera. For the simple reason is that we're basically an entertainment show. We're not here to sort of aid conservation. We're not here to do anything bad to conservation. And what we try really hard to do is try and distance ourselves from any of those efforts on camera. So it's not that we're not doing anything about rhino conservation. We care very, very deeply about rhino conservation. But we don't want people across the world, and we have a very, very massive viewership, and you don't quite know who's watching and at what time. We don't want people to use the information that they have here. Oh, they saw a rhino on Djuma today. There must be rhino there, and therefore they can come and inform people who would come and poach rhino. Rhino poaching is something that is picked up in the last few years again. It was very, very high in the 1980s. It was quelled, and it has only recently picked up in the last 4 or 5 years again. But the park, the Kruger National Park, is losing about 11% of their rhino per year. which is a massive, massive number. And there is literally, I think, billions of rands worth of conservation effort going into saving these creatures. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to get messed up in all of that stuff. There's a lot of negative press going on, a lot of negative things, and so we don't want to be part of that. And so we just decide to cancel rhino from our our filming menu and try and show you everything else. We'll talk about rhino, and you're welcome to ask me any questions about rhino that you have. We just won't be showing any rhino to you through this lens. Hopefully that answered the question for you. Alrighty, now I want to show you this tree. That is the tree that we came here to have a look at. That is the most giant weeping boerbean. And what I'm going to do is quickly send you over to Brent, who's got a vulture that'll probably fly away. We're going to wait right here at this tree for you.
There you go, white-backed vulture. Now this is one we've visited a couple of times, and it's sitting on top of its nest. Now, if it bred early, there should be a chick in there. If it bred late, the chick should be about to hatch. Oh, there it is, there's the chick. Oh, so cool. So they were early breeders. So this will probably be the first set of hatching. There we go. Hello, little chap. Okay, let's see if that little vulture popped its head up again. No, that's great. We're on our way here. One of the reasons we wanted to check was because of that little one. So there we go. It has definitely one of the early breeders. Now it's a perfect spot for a nest. It's very easy to defend. It's really thick impenetrable thorns up there. Oops, sorry, that was my fault. I took my foot off the brake and I forgot I was in neutral. So this chick was probably laid in around June. And it takes about 2 months, about 60 days to hatch. You can see a bit of preening going on there. I'm just trying to get a good look. So when they're tiny, they're covered in a short sort of white down feather that keeps them warm. And I'd say this is probably between 5 and 8 weeks old, just from that brief glimpse I got, as the dark feathers start forming. At about 10 weeks old, they're probably almost fully feathered, although the feathers aren't developed properly. There you go. Isn't that awesome? So we know that this has been a successful year for this Arethusa vulture pair, and they've managed to successfully hatch. Now hopefully they'll be able to successfully rear that little vulture. Now of course vultures are under threat throughout most of their range in Africa, even in South Africa, but this area has got one of the healthiest populations because of the amount of game reserves around. So, very exciting. We definitely have to keep coming back to check on this little vulture and see how it's doing. So while we continue our endeavours in Arethusa, Steph, I believe, has found something he's been looking for quite heavily over the last few days. So let's go have a look.
I have indeed. I haven't changed my place at this particular weeping boer bean, but have a look at that magnificent. I don't quite know if it's a man or a male or a female tree, so I'm just going to go magnificent tree. And just look at how healthy that tree is. And it's because she or he is growing on a termite mound, and termite mounds are natural nutrient hotspots. They are very, very high in minerals that from all the fungus and all the detritus, the dead termites and their feces and all the wood that the termites carry into the mounds. They're also well aerated, and all the termite mounds go down to the water table, and so well provisioned with water. And this tree is just growing on one of these and just is so healthy, but has no flowers on. I cannot even see a bud of a flower. And it's leading me to believe that the water table has probably dropped low enough that these boer beans are not ready to flower just yet. So it's not just about sunlight and length of day. I mean, it obviously has something to do with water, but you'd expect that these two, I would expect that these trees have access to water. And although good enough to keep this tree in a very good condition, very green, not enough for water. But this is a tree we're going to spend lots of time with, I presume, if it's a female tree and if it produces flowers. I mean, it's just too magnificent not to produce flowers. All right. So onward we go. So we found a nice tree, the most magnificent boer bean tree, in my opinion, in Djuma, that I've found at least yet anyway. But it has no flowers, so onwards we go with our search. And since this tree is looking so good here, why don't we circle the area and see if any of its offspring are doing just as well on this drainage line that we've got off on our left-hand side. Drainage line being an area where water is carried away from an area, like a creek bed. And this would be one of the tributaries of the Mulwati. And after heavy rains will run, absolutely. It's been a nice afternoon, I must be honest. It's been fairly hot. Myself and Dave managed to go for a run today. First one in a little while. We've both been packing on the winter pounds, unfortunately, and we had to walk 3 times. Can you imagine? James would be mortified if he found out that we walked 3 times on our 5-kilometer run. I just couldn't anymore. It felt like my lungs were going to come out and beat me to death. It was also about 90 degrees Fahrenheit, or 30 degrees, just below 30 degrees centigrade. So it was fairly warm. Just got some hyena tracks on the floor. It's not unlike Karula or Mvula or Tingana to walk around during the day. And with that bushbuck that was alarm calling close to Vuyatela, I would almost expect one of them to be on the property at the moment. There was 0 leopard tracks on the property this morning, and that's fairly rare. And generally, it generally precedes a migration of leopard onto the property, either Karula or Mvula or Tingana or Shadow in actual fact, all of which have been noticeably absent for a while. So Mia, you're from Illinois, and good afternoon to you. You've asked me, do the termites bother the trees? Mia, they absolutely do. Termites will bother trees unless the tree can protect itself with some or other type of chemical. And tannin is one of those chemicals that the trees protect themselves with. Fairly easy to produce compound for a tree, and a lot of the trees out here have quite a high tannin, or are quite tanniferous is the word that we use. And that is toxic for termites, and so they don't eat it. So if a tree can produce enough tannin or sufficiently covered in tannin, then termites won't be able to use it. Another thing that trees can do is to be very, very hard. A tree that's too hard will become almost impervious. So leadwood, for instance, which are not very tanniniferous, they make up for it by being incredibly dense, incredibly hard. Another thing that termites can't overcome. But we've got a leopard orchid in the tree over there. It's the only orchid that we find in this particular area. This is one of the larger ones. One that size is probably about 40 years old. Can you believe it, eh? And I noticed something hanging from the bottom. I'm not entirely sure what that is. I think it's got to do with it. It's like a baby one, but I think, let's see here what our books say about the medicinal uses of the leopard orchid. I quite enjoy medicinal uses of the orchids. Now, let me see here. Now watch there not be leopard orchid. Of course it would be... There's nothing about the leopard orchid there. Let's see if I've got one in another one of my books. I carry around a lot of books over here. Leopard number 8. No, nothing in that book either. There's nothing about leopard orchids in our books here, everybody. I wonder what's going on. Why have I never ever come across anything like this? It's bizarre. Leopard. No, nothing in there either. Gee whiz. So, as far as what I can see, apart from being ornamental and traded as an ornamental plant, there's nothing in any of my books, and this is now the 4th book that I've looked at, that give us any idea about leopard orchid. You can have a look at how many books I've actually been through here quickly. It's incredible. Let's see if we've got one over here. MNO, Leo. Listener. Ciao. Alright, I think what you're going to do is let me go through this book and see if maybe at Orchid we can find it. And while I'm busy paging through all these books, I'm sure you would love to know what Brent is up to at Arethusa. We're quickly going to send you over to him. If I find something, I'll tell you a bit later.
Well, unfortunately, apart from those Impala and that one hippopotamus and one terrapin, Arethusa is quite quiet. So we're gonna do one last gamble through here. If we get no success, I'll start heading back towards Juma and see what's happening there. So otherwise Steph might get a bit lonely. Hi, Pamela, in Bermuda. Don't disappear into the triangle now, Pamela. Now, we often see solitary male hippos, and Pamela's wondering where are all the females. Well, in our traverse area, Pamela, we don't have any waterholes big enough to hold family groups. So there's some just to the south of Arethusa, and there's a lot to the north of Juma, where there's bigger waterholes, and they're the dominant male hippos, and the dominant male hippos and the females are. But there's another vulture's nest, so hopefully that one's been as successful as the other. I don't know if we can be as lucky to see a little head pop up again. Okay. Well, we're not going to spend too much time. We have already seen one of those little vulture heads pop up. But now we know where there's another nest to keep checking. Now, one of Ali's favorite birds is vultures, and she's very happy we got to see that little split-second view of a little vulture chick. Me too, Ali, me too. And I'm sure the fox is also quite happy. Now, which hen house is the fox planning to raid this evening, Brian?
One next to my room called the kitchen.
Ah. Oh, hello. There's a buffalo bull. All on his own, oh no, not on his own, he's got some mates. It's a bit jumpy in this strong wind. Yes, hello Duggar. Hello, old man. Now, it's not uncommon to see open wounds or injuries on these old boys, and Haley is wondering, would that make it easier for the lions to track them down? Not really. They're still going to be utilizing mostly sight to catch buffalo. Sight and sound, Haley. Shame they're not looking well in this drought. Those hips are sticking out. And to quote Shakira, them hips don't lie. And we'll leave those two old men to wander off. Two Duggar boys, second one will near the mud wallows in the center. Okay. Just trying to hear what's going on there. It sounds like something interesting is happening on the radio. So far, not too much happening here. Strong winds, jumpy animals. A huge hello to Lazy Boy Brown, who's a brand new viewer. Welcome to the SafariLIVE family. And Lazy Boy Brown is wondering, when did I start doing safaris? Well, I think my first safari, I was still in my mother's stomach. But professionally, for the last 15 years. But before that, I've lived and grown up in safari lodges in South Africa, Botswana, and Zambia. So, in my blood, so to speak. And since leaving school, I've worked in Zambia, Tanzania, Botswana, Namibia, Mozambique. Where else have I worked? Gabon, all over the place. Oh, and of course, South Africa. Congo as well, can't forget Congo. so while we keep checking through Arathusa, let's go back across to Steph and see how he's faring on Juma.
Yeah. All right, and we are still with our leopard orchid in the tree, and in 5 books I found absolutely nothing. Can you believe it? What I have found is some reference to the fact that that little orchid there is one of the largest plant groups in the world, and as you can see from a net of very, very fine roots that you can see in the tree, that's that mat that's hanging out the bottom of the tree. That is how the orchid attaches itself to the plant, and also how it derives a little bit of its nutrients. Now, although this leadwood is dead, it hasn't killed the orchid, and that's because this orchid is large enough that that mat of vegetation that made up its roots catches a bunch of detritus, airborne leaves, airborne dust, and it forms basically its own compost heap. Isn't that amazing? And then from its own compost heap, the plant then feeds itself. So it creates this mass of roots and then its own compost heap. And that's what you're seeing just below the green leaves, is its little compost heap, and that'll catch dust and leaves and bits and pieces of sand and whatever else it can catch. And as that decomposes and breaks down, the orchid then derives its nutrients from that. Isn't that amazing? So Janet, in Baltimore, you've also said the leaf litter orchid. I find that that is an unbelievably awesome name. The leaf litter orchid, and it gets its name, oh sorry, excuse me, trash basket orchid. Gee whiz, that was my brain. Trash basket orchid, excuse me. I think that is a fantastic name for that. So the trash basket orchid, obviously because it generates this compost from its little basket that it creates out of its own roots, and then feeds itself from it. Wonderful. So isn't that crazy? Learn something new every day. So firstly, I want to thank you to Raisa. Raisa also sent through a comment while I was off air to look under its genus name, but I didn't find anything, Raisa, underneath that. I must be honest to you, my books, 5 whole books, excuse me, I'll take my hat off. 5 whole books of information, and all I found was some reference to the fact that its roots generate, and amazingly enough, generate its own compost heap, which is amazing. Now, onwards we go, and what I want to go and have a look for is I want to go and comb the area around Gowrie, Maine, in particular around the Twin Dams area, and the reason for that is because there's a big dam, not on our side of the road, but on the southern side of the road, which attracts a lot of animals during the day. But if there's something that I have seen with these animals is that they don't hang out at the dam. What they do is they go and drink, and then they come and rest just on the fringes of that. And I'm hoping that we get to see these little pockets of animals as we get to the dam and as we traverse around the outside of it. I must say this wind has picked up quite substantially from this afternoon. Literally an hour ago there wasn't a breath of air, and all of a sudden we've got gusts of wind coming through here that is strong enough to pick up even this sand and fling it around. So Terry, you've asked me what has been my most exhilarating bush experience. Terry, it's quite, well, like right off the cuff, let me just say, probably an encounter with a lioness that had her cubs underneath a little bush. And it was on the side of a drainage line. I was on a walk with some guests, and we were following a male lion, and the reason for that was this male lion crossed in front of us when we were in the car. And it looked like he was going to a kill. It looked like he was running to a kill. And so what we did was, myself and my tracker friend at the time, we thought, well, if we follow this male lion at a safe distance, he won't really know where we are. We could sneak up behind him and then watch with binoculars, watch lions on a kill. We were deep in the middle of the Kruger National Park, on foot in the Kruger National Park. And we came up to this little drainage line, couldn't see the male lion anymore, came up to this little drainage line, and I walked to the edge of the drainage line and I looked left and I looked right, and unbeknownst to me, a lioness was lying on the other side of the sand, obviously cowering over her cubs, worried what I was going to do. But the second I turned my back on her, she ran across the sand, wanting to jump on me, making the most fearsome noise. And I just remember spinning about, shouting at her, and she stopped on the sand at my feet, probably about 2.5 or 3 yards away from me. And we had a stare down with each other. She couldn't go anywhere because her cubs were just behind her, and she wouldn't let me go anywhere. She was obviously scared of my next reaction. And every time I blinked, broke eye contact, or moved, this lioness came a little bit closer. And she kept me there for about 15 minutes. It was singularly the longest 15 minutes I've ever had in my life. And one of the most terrifying, exhilarating, I even had an out-of-body experience during it. I remember detaching myself from the spectacle and asking myself, is this real? Like, is this happening? Is this lioness really going to jump on me? Am I going to die right now? Am I going to have to shoot this animal? I had a rifle and carrying around. I remember going through all these decisions, and I said, well, I'm not going to shoot this animal. She's got cubs there. It's my fault. I remember looking across at my tracker at a stage. He had my big knife. He had this huge knife out in his hand. He was standing ready to defend all our clients. I tell you, it was the single most bizarre experience that I've ever had. And for that reason, it's probably my most remarkable. It's just going through all these things. The only thing that I could liken it to, perhaps, is going through a 15-minute car crash without obviously injuring yourself, or being on a 15-minute roller coaster if you were on a roller coaster for the first time. So yeah, all terrifying, all quite exhilarating. All right, so now we are on Gowrie Main. The dam we're talking about is off on this side, literally just there. And animals, I'm hoping, are carpeting, I use that word liberally, carpeting this slope. But while I get there and start trawling through our carpet of animals, Brent is going to give you an update on what he's been doing in Arethusa.
So we've checked about 80% of Arethusa with no luck, so we've headed back to Djuma. And apparently Steph is not too far away from me on the same road, so I'm going to go off in the opposite direction, maybe go poke around where I last saw those lions. So we see a pride of lions called the Nkahuma Pride most regularly, and they are most wonderful with 8 little cubs at the moment. And they are named after a tree. It was the first time they were ever seen by the Djuma guides. They were all lying under a tree. And it was one of these trees. Now, during the summer, it's a wonderful, big, green, shady tree. At the moment, the new leaves are coming out. So you might get some fruits on it as well, but it's a brown ivory tree, Bacchemia discolor, also called a bird plum sometimes, but in Shangaan it is called an Nkahuma tree. So the Nkahuma Pride were first seen sleeping under one of these trees in Buffels Hook. Now this is one of my favorite trees on Djuma. It is also the very first place I ever saw a wild dog on Djuma, and believe it or not, that was on my interview drive, which was many moons ago now. What month are we in, Brian? August. So a year and 6 months more, actually probably interview with him before. Probably about a year and 7 months ago, I saw wild dogs under that tree, racing off to the south. Another big group of impala spread through the woodland. And as always, the ever-present, oops, sorry, Brian, fork-tailed drongo, hoping for an insect morsel to be disturbed by the impala. Oh, there we go. He got one. Herbie, who are you looking for? Negative. I'm on Zoe's. There we go, impalas. So it sounds like Herbie's found some female leopard tracks and he's following up on them. Copy, thanks Herb. There we go. An impala moving off in the wind-swept. Oh, there's the drongo back again. You can see there's almost no grass and the impala having to browse mostly. But we're going to keep moving. Hi, Rama in Florida. Rama is wondering how long the Nkahuma Pride have been residing on Djuma. Well, I'm not 100% sure, Rama. I think since late 2000s, possibly. Maybe one of our long-time viewers can help me out. How long have the Nkahuma Pride been seen in the Djuma area? And you can let me know by sending me an email, questions@wildearth.tv, or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. Now, Rama is asking, is now a good time to come see some lion cubs? And they were here out in Kruger in May, but had no luck. Well, lions can have cubs at any time. But if you're coming to this part of the world, yes, it's a very good time to see cubs because the sticks and Nkahumas both have lots and lots of cubs. So it is a good time for cubs in this part of the world. And also with the drought, it's a time of plenty for the predators. So there's a very good chance in those cubs surviving. Now Herbie's following up on those leopard tracks somewhere down in this basin here, right down in the base of the Mawati. I know Steph's in that area, so probably going to give him a hand. I'm just going to go slowly back towards where I last saw the lions this morning, poking around there a little bit. Hopefully they haven't moved too far. But there's a bird we don't log. There we go, a ground scraper thrush. Oh, ever so fast. Now, didn't you and Andrew have a strange nickname for those, Brian?
Yeah, the cowbird.
The cowbird. Why on earth would you call a ground scraper bush a cowbird?
Oh, in the Kalahari, it looks like an insect, so he's had the same markings as a cow, a white dairy cow.
I don't see it, Brian. I'll show you guys what it looks like. Let me just get to some shade. And let's see if you agree with Brian and then, of course, Andrew, who used to be a cameraman here, whether the ground scraper thrush resembles a dairy cow. I myself, I don't see it, but I'm willing to be proved wrong. There we go, a bit of shade to help with the glare. Because I remember, I don't know, I think I've heard it from both you and Andrew, and I was like, I don't understand the cowbird. There we go, thrush. I don't see the cow, I'm afraid, Brian.
Yes, look at those spots. It's a cow.
It's a bird. There we go. The ground scraper thrush, or AKA the moo bird, or cowbird, according to Brian Joubert and Andrew Francis.
It's exactly the same as a cow. Look at it.
But it's got grey on the back. Anyway, they are around. We don't see them too often. So there we go. Hopefully another nice species for those of you who are keeping their bird lists. But we're going to keep checking back towards the lions. Maybe we'll find another cowbird. Okay, so while we try shoot towards where the last position of the Nkahumas, let's go see how Steph's endeavours further to the east of me are going.
Good afternoon and welcome back. Yeah, it's been dry here. I must be honest to you, my prediction about this place being carpeted with animals because we are close to a dam has proven 100% false so far. There's nothing remotely like an animal anywhere close to where we are right now. Nothing. There's a bird. We have a red-billed hornbill and a Burchell's starling, no, a blue-eared starling, excuse me. There's up a bit, up in the middle, there we go. There's a red-billed hornbill busy wolfing down some termites. That is the only other thing with a heartbeat that I've seen in the last 25 minutes. Not too much of a worry, you know, these things happen, we'll find them. Just have a look at how that red-billed hornbill flicks away the sand and he's just picking up every little termite. You probably find there's a harvested termite colony there. And he's managed to uncover it and just wolfing it down. Now, termites are around about, well, let me give it to you this way. For every 100 grams of termites is equal to 300 grams of mammal protein. So 100 grams of insect protein is equal to 300 grams of mammal protein. So this bird is packing away a lot of calories here, needing to do that. And in actual fact, look at how his feeding has now attracted a southern yellow-billed hornbill who's now going to chase him away because he's bigger. He's just outcompeted. And now it's the yellow-billed hornbill's turn. Wow, what a bonanza. Just picking up one termite for another termite for another termite. And having a bit of an afternoon snack, much needed. They need to stay warm at night time. And you know, birds are very, very weight sensitive. Too heavy and they are lethargic and don't want to fly. Too light and they don't have enough energy to fly. And so birds really, really need to keep themselves in that optimal weight band. And it's a very narrow weight band. And so these few calories that this southern yellow-billed hornbill is picking up not only is good food for today, but it also serves to keep him warm. Look who else has joined the party, is a blue-eared starling. now coming in from the right-hand side. Also been attracted to the termites. Let's see if this if the yellow-billed hornbill decides to chase it away. No, he wants to keep it all for himself. Not bothered about that blue-eared starling whatsoever. I know it's a blue-eared starling from that. Oh, there we go. I was going to say because of its orange eye, but right now it could have had a bright purple eye with a laser coming out of its forehead, and I wouldn't be able to prove it. But just have a look at how this yellow-billed hornbill is just packing away the termites. Just fantastic. Looks like he's got a soldier stuck to his neck. That is incredible. Just one after another, after another, after another. So Kim, you've just asked me a question on how many termites these hornbills will eat. That's actually a good question. I don't actually know. Oh, there we go. I'm actually going to suggest that we count them, but that's not going to work. So I want to say that enough was just that. That's probably the best answer that I can give you right now, was that hornbill's just eaten enough. He arrived on the scene, what do you think, Dave, probably about 4 minutes ago, and was packing away maybe 2 termites a second, maybe a termite a second. Let's call it a termite a second for 3 minutes. So that's 180 termites. How much does a termite weigh? Whew, I don't know. I'd say definitely not a gram. Maybe 4 termites to a gram. So I don't quite know how my maths is going to work, but that much, little bit, that many. A couple of dozen termites, I would say. Which is substantial. I mean, that particular hornbill will have enough energy now for tomorrow. So Emma, you've asked me what species of red-billed hornbill that was. To be honest with you, I just know it as a red-billed hornbill. But what I am going to do is just double check, because it's actually quite a good question. There's so many hornbills around here. Hornbill 42, it's going to be fairly easy for me to find, hopefully, here. Unless the book doesn't have it. So there, just the red-billed hornbill. It's just called the red-billed hornbill. That's the hornbill that found the termites, and he was deposed by the southern yellow-billed hornbill. As to species, wow, have a look at that name there, Emma. I'm not even going to try and say that. So, Tocus, genus, Erythrorhynchus. Erythrorhynchus. Erythrorhynchus, sorry. Tocus erythrorhynchus. Erythrorhynchus. Now that is actually quite interesting. Let's go to plate 13 here at the back. This book is actually quite amazing. So here I'm going to look for plate 13. Let's have a look here. Tocus. Tocus, the genus Tocus is onomatopoeic from its calls, and it's because it makes that call, that toc, 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 toc. Let's go to red bill, Erythrorhynchus, red-billed. There we go. Okay, so Erythrorhynchus means red-billed in Greek. So there we go. The red-billed hornbill, Erythrorhynchus tocus. So that's quite nice, eh? So the tuk-tuk bird that has the red beak, and that's how birds are named. And you know, if you were watching a little bit earlier, we had a conversation about where the kudu got its name from. And the kudu was the sound that it makes when it jumps, the kudu, as its back legs hit, so kudu. Whereas, and that wasn't anywhere close to its genus and species. It was the Tragelaphus streptoceros, whereas this is the Tocus erythrorhynchus, and that genus name is almost identical to the name of the bird, the common name. Hornbill, obviously referring to the big horn, has nothing to do with its sound, which the genus comes from. But yeah, quite cool. So, nice questions. Nice sighting, actually, out of some termites and a red-billed hornbill. So Kevin, you've asked me all the way from the United Kingdom, do we have any ground hornbills in the area? Absolutely. There was a bunch of ground hornbills, or a flock of ground hornbills at Juma camp this morning. I didn't see them myself, but one of my camp staff at the moment that is in camp busy helping us prep for the new final control move has saw them around the camp, and we heard them calling this morning early as well. So they definitely occur. They're just so rare, Kevin, to be honest with you. They can't remember the exact number of hornbills, southern ground hornbills that we have in the park, but it's somewhere around 350. It's not a lot of birds at all. So to have them around and to see them is actually quite interesting. But the interesting thing, funnily enough, is this weekend that has just been passed, I saw for the first time a nesting box for a southern ground hornbill. And it basically, why southern ground hornbills are becoming so rare is that their trees that they use for nesting sites are being chopped down for wood and for ornaments and for all manner of things. And the birds are not breeding because they don't have good nesting sites. And it was just a matter of time before some genius decided to build a nesting site. And I'm not joking to you, it's a stump. It's a prefabricated stump. It's a made stump about this big and about this tall that you then wire into a suitable tree, and it has exactly the dimensions and the shape that the ground hornbills look for. And I'm just fascinated by that. I really hope it works. I have yet to find some literature on how successful these southern ground hornbills pseudo nests or nesting boxes are working. And so why don't I just ask you if you're interested in that sort of thing, Kevin? I'd love to know, and I'm sure the rest of us would all like to know about these nesting boxes, how practical they are and how successful they are. And you can obviously send through your answers through to questions@wildearth.tv or use that hashtag SafariLive, and I'll try and see if I can share it with everybody while we're on drive today. Alrighty. Karine, you've reminded me nicely, thank you very much, that I've forgotten to finish off my story with the lioness that charged me. Well, we kept ourselves there for about 10 minutes, eyes locked. And every time I'd move my eye or I'd move my head, she'd come charging a bit closer and then move back a step or two to her cubs and then come charging out at me again. It was terrifying. And eventually what happened was she allowed us to, firstly me to break eye contact, and then for me to take a step, and then another step, and slowly I created some distance. She didn't come charging out at me, she just increased the ferocity of her growls and her snarling. She didn't come rushing at me like she wanted to jump on me or jump on one of my guests. And I think she just got to a point after 10 minutes that she got to this understanding. I wasn't there to hurt her, I wasn't going to hurt her cubs. She just needed to get me or allow me to move away, and I was quite prepared to just create some distance. And that's all that animals really want, is they just want respect and B, distance from humans. And once I'd created that little bit of distance, her growls got a little bit softer. She allowed me then to turn around and get my guests under control, because by this stage I had a little girl behind me, well, not little, she was probably 16 or 18 years old, somewhere around there. She had hyperventilated so bad, she was on the verge of passing out. And her father was having to help her down the road. And I actually had a couple that were on their honeymoon as well, and I had them talking about, I think she was accusing him of bringing her to a place that would end her life on their honeymoon. I mean, can't think of anything worse being killed by a lion on honeymoon. But anyway, we managed to get out of the problem, and you know, the lioness, I hope her cubs are still alive today and thriving because of that. Anyway, and that's really the end of that story. Thanks for letting me finishing it. All right, we still have no life here. I must be honest with you, I'm not quite sure exactly what is going on. This morning we had a lot of zebra and a lot of impala around here, and it was actually that triggered this compulsion in me to come here trying to figure out a reason, and I thought that it would be that dam actually, but while the game paths here are exceptionally well used, and let me show you, we've actually got some impala here, that's a good sign. Impala, even though it's been proven that they're not that water dependent, currently will be around water, not more than a kilometer or so away from water in the dry season. And we're quite close to Buffelshoek Dam, but we're also quite close to that dam in Chitwa Chitwa. Look at these guys picking up sand, basically. Male impala with the horns. You can see his hips coming out a little bit. It's just a sign of the times. But they haven't got that, well, he's got a distended belly, but not that massively distended belly that we see in a malnourished impala. There's no doubt in my mind that we're going to start seeing some animals dying towards October. I have no doubt that we're going to see that. I was part of a drought in 2009, or let me rephrase that. I witnessed a drought in 2009 where we were losing about 5 impala on the concession I was in a day. So every day we'd go out and 5 impala would be dead, 5 more impala would be dead, with these massively distended tummies. It almost looked like somebody had stuck an air hose in their mouth and pumped their tummies up. But these impala are not there yet. All right condition, actually. I mean, all things considered. Quite mature impala these, actually. For a bachelor herd of impala, the 2 impala that we've seen have been definitely veterans out here. And I know that. Have a look at their horn tips. The last inch or so of their horn tips. If they are pointing towards one another, that one is not. Can you see those horn tips are almost pointing away from one another? There we go, you can see that. That is now a male impala that's past prime. And generally these guys are the mentors for the young bucks, the young impala coming in. These impala quite often form the sparring partners for the youngsters, and it's where the youngsters learn the finer art of sparring or jousting with their horns. And it's one of the reasons why I do not like trophy hunting. Hunting, this impala would be considered a trophy, but what happens when you take out a trophy male like this, even if he's past breeding, you take out that institutional knowledge, what to do when there's danger, what to do when does the rut start, how do you prepare, how do you fight. You take away that, and it's equally as important as a mature ram. Or at least in my opinion. So Mike, all the way from Germany, good afternoon Mike, you've asked, are there any springbuck in this area? Mike, unfortunately no, we don't have springbuck in this area. Springbuck tend to be high felt or plateau animals. I want to see if I can actually find you some distribution maps. Yes, I've got one right here. I think this is going to be the best way to explain it to you. They are on the inland plateau of South Africa, stretching all the way to the west coast. And I'm just going to have a look for springbuck. They should be fairly easy to find. So stick with me just for a little bit. I'm on S, springbuck, 419. There we go. This would be very easy to show you. All right. So, springbuck, this is South Africa. South Africa is bordered by the Orange River, which is here. That's the Orange River. And you can see how springbuck are literally hemmed in by this plateau. This is the plateau, and then to the west coast, onto the coast, onto the sea. Where we are is here. And you can see that we're half a country away from where the springbuck start. Good from here to there, 600 kilometers. From there to there, 600 kilometers. We're probably about 400 kilometers away from where we start to see springbuck, or where we could expect springbuck, and then all the way through to the west coast. In contrast, an impala, which is what we're having a look at right now, and that should also be just as quick to find. You can see impala occur where the springbuck do not, although much further up into East Africa as well. Here's where the rainforests stop and the grasslands start, the tropical grasslands. But you can see where we are, which is here. This is where we are here. You can see impala are everywhere where springbuck are not. There is an overlap, a slight overlap here along this margin, but generally springbuck and impala are not found together. So I hope that helped. It's quite nice seeing it on a map. I always find having a look at a map, or at least for me, you know, sometimes my brain works better in pictures like that, and it helps a little bit to see why we don't find one or the other here. Although impala are called water dependent, they're not really, but springbuck really are. They do not have to have water at all. They are water independent. And they can literally get enough water from the ground and the grass that they feed on. The plants, excuse me, they are browsers. Whereas an impala is a mixed feeder, both browsing and grazing. Have a look at those impressive horns, eh? Excuse me, I've got a bit of a frog in my throat. I think friend Brent has passed on his cold to me. They just love their colors. That's called counter shading, where you have dark on the top and light below, or vice versa. One of the more common animals that produce counter shading are sharks, who have lighter undersides and darker top sides, so that they blend into the dark sea below them if you're looking from the top to the bottom, and they blend in with a lighter sea above them. Although, who would ever distinguish a shark silhouette from, I don't know, a plastic bag floating around in the sea, I suppose, is the most common thing nowadays. Look at all those impala. Bachelor herd, all very mature rams. And why they are together at this time of the year, alone and apart from the females, I'm not too sure. Generally now, the females are all heavily pregnant. They will all have their babies in about November, December, with the first ones actually dropping in late October. And because their bodies are so low in estrogen at the moment, and the males are out of rut, their rut is in May, all these impalas should actually be with the herd, adding more eyes and ears. I think what would be nice is to see if the herd is not in front of this particular impala. But while I do that, Brent has a big furry surprise for you.
Now, we're not going to tell Steph how we got here. Let's just say it wasn't off the road through possibly one of the worst bits of off-roading I've done in about a year. We just won't tell Steph any of that. We'll just say there's a lion. He just happens to be next to us. And there he is. So this is the male who's been hanging on the peripheries, not too close to that female who's about to come to estrus. And I think he's playing the smart game. Oh, yawn, half yawn. And the smart game is he's actually going to wait for that lioness to actually properly come into estrus, and he hasn't wasted energy and time chasing and fighting while she's not fully in estrus, and he might just swoop in and claim the rewards. I just saw the other male behind you, Brian, but I think I can see half a lion in the bush. Anyway, thank you very much, Karen, who has answered my Nkahuma question. The Nkahuma Pride were first seen in Djuma late 2006. So I wonder where they came from, Magnaletti or Kruger. Either is possible. Well, it's quite nice he's actually up and about a little bit. Normally, they'll be fast asleep. Charlie says, we're so lucky to have a bounty of lions to watch these days. Indeed we are. Charlie, I remember the days where we used to struggle for lions from time to time. But that's how it works out here. Everything goes in cycles. Giving himself a good lick. Just trying to see that other male had his head up for a second, but he's put it down. I'm pretty sure the rest of the pride. What? I see. I think that's the other male. You see him, Brian? And I'm trying to see, I think I can see some bellies beyond. I think the rest of the pride might be in this little thicket here. There we go. Here's at least two. Is that lionesses, both of them? Yeah, and the male's actually a bit further to the left, I think. So, I wonder where the cubs are. The cubs are probably not too far away. All snoozing still. Now he's still doing a bit of grooming. It's going to be interesting to see when that female comes into full estrus. Now Liz says, wow, it looks like he's just been beaten up. Oh, he looks pretty good to me. Normal male lion sort of scars. Nothing too serious. Not a proper male lion unless it looks like you've been in a fight. That's why with photographs you can always tell the difference between a captive bred lion and a lion from the wild. Wild lions are full of scars and nicks and tears, and they're quite often, or very often, always having a little bit of a limp, whereas those captive bred lions you often see in photographs are those picture perfect, not even a little scratch on the schnoz. Ooh, looks like he's going to growl at a fly for a second there. I do find it highly amusing when a great big male lion growls at a tiny stable fly. Oh. Now, this is the largest member of the order Carnivora in Africa who's going back to sleep. So let's go across to Steph, who's got the smallest member of the order Carnivora, looking for a meal.
I absolutely have the small terror, and I can guarantee you that my money would be behind the dwarf mongoose if it were the same size as an African male lion. These guys are precocious to the definition of the word precocious. But have a look at this little guy. Now, we see them quite often on SafariLIVE, and for some of them, they actually don't care about the cars. I mean, we're many thousands of times bigger and heavier than this little mongoose. To give you an example of how big he is, put your two fists in series with one another. In other words, baby finger to index finger, pointer finger, whatever you want to call it. And as long as your two fists are, that is how big he is. As wide as your balled fists and as long as your fists. Tiny, tiny little animal. About 100 grams worth. 100 to 250 grams worth, really. Not a particularly big one, but obviously not feeding. And that is because this mongoose's job right now is to act as a sentry for all the other ones around the area. So they're all feeding here somewhere. I actually got them in view here. They're on the other side of the car. They've just picked a high point next to that termite mound on the right-hand side. Look at the feeding frenzy going on the left. Sorry, left. They are all feeding, showing a very different behavior to the one that we've just been looking at. And that's because this one we were looking at was the sentry. These ones are feeding while they know their back is covered. They're looking for insects, scorpions, beetles, spiders, termites, centipedes, baby mice, young small snakes, anything that they can find. Boom, and that's probably where they're going to be spending the night. They spend nights in termite mounds. Let's come back to this one. He's still sitting on his branch, doing his job very well. I must clap for this little guy. There we go. Oh, they're awesome. Now, I heard something interesting. Now, I've been seeing dwarf mongoose, I don't know, every second or third day for many, many years. And one thing I do want to say is I never actually have seen one anal paste. Now, I know it sounds a bit macabre and disgusting, but they mark their territory by excreting a glandular secretion from their anal gland under their tail. And they do that by reversing, doing a handstand and reversing up a branch and touching that branch with this gland. It looks like this little one is going off to find another high point. We might have to just change the location of where we are at the moment. Oh, there he runs away. All right. He didn't want to play anymore. They're all gone. Ah. Let's see if we can show that one underneath there. He's digging underneath that double stump on the ground there. Let's see if some more want to come out and play with us. Right of the termite mound? Yeah, this time the right way. Yeah. said right just now, Dave was confused. I'm digging through the leaf litter there. So the anal paste, by doing a handstand and then sticking their bottom onto a stick or a rock. But inside the termitarial that they live in, a male will anal paste against the dominant male will anal paste against the north wall. Can you believe this? And it's because the north wall of a termite mound gets hotter first with the sun that's always in the northern sky in the southern hemisphere and wafts his smell all over the nest and therefore imbuing his family's fur with his smell, and then he will individually go and anal paste all over his family so that everybody carries his smell. Now, if that isn't mongoose behavior 101, I mean, I just thought it was such a fascinating thing. Having seen this little mongoose anal paste, I'd never seen it before, and then reading up a little bit about this anal pasting behavior and how these males are just absolutely compelled to do this. So B. Wilson, you've asked me if these dwarf mongoose ever get into cars similar to how squirrels do in the US. Not that I've seen, to be quite honest with you, I have never seen a dwarf mongoose climb into a car or come even close to a vehicle. They get about as close as this little one was on the stick to us all the time, but none closer than that. That said though, they do habituate quite well. You obviously know, or potentially know, that you can habituate suricates, meerkats, quite well. I've had a meerkat crawl up me and sit on my head, like use myself as a sentry post. And they've just started to do it with dwarf mongoose, close to where I live. There's a lady from the UK studying the behavior of mongoose, and she has, I don't know, 2 or 3 of these clans that she's got habituated to them. And you can literally sit in the bush and crawl around them and have them basically come and interact, but not with you. And I just thought that it was such an interesting thing to do. So they can actually get very used to you, but not climbing in the cars, not yet at least anyway. Now, I want to see what's just landed. It's a purple roller that's just landed in the tree here. But Dave, I don't think from this angle we're going to get him. I am going to try though. I want to show you a purple roller. You go forward just a little bit. It's going to be a very difficult find. So you see him in the top of the tree. Oh, excuse me. Oh, excuse me. Gee whiz. That was right in the microphone. Go right. Right. Sorry. It's going to take a bit of time to find. We'll be with you in a second. Oh, it's just flown away. No problem. All right. Crisis over. We missed the purple roller, but it's okay. We're going to go back to the dwarf mongoose here now. Let's go backwards. Hi, Joanne, you've asked a very nice question there. Are the termites still home when the mongoose move in? Absolutely, Joanne, but what I think is that the termites are under attack from the second that the mongoose move into the termite home, and realizing that every time they come to their defense of their mound, they just get eaten. I think all they do, or have learned how to do, is just wall off that particular chamber, leaving it for the mongoose to inhabit. So I would imagine that all it takes is a couple of minutes and the termites would have vacated those chambers, left them to the mongoose until the mongoose leave, and then they would use that chamber again. But yeah, I've always wondered the same thing, to be quite honest. It doesn't make sense that the mongoose would let themselves be bitten by all of the termites all the time, and it also doesn't make sense to me why the termites would allow themselves to be eaten just the whole night. It just doesn't make too much sense. I can only imagine that it's because they create such a disturbance, the termites just leave, and then it leaves them alone for the evening. And of course, it's warm inside a termite mound. You're looking at 27 degrees centigrade winter and summer. They're protected from all the elements. Unfortunately, do share it with a lot of snakes. Puff adders, black mambas, cobras of all sorts, all like to go into termite mounds, pythons, and they all feed on these mongoose. So I can only imagine it must be terrifying. Warm but scary would be how I describe it. They're back on that stump there now, Dave, on that lying down stump in that gap there, sunning themselves. There we go. Coming into the screen from the left-hand side. So when it's very thick bush, just to give you guys a bit of a technical, when it's very thick bush, Dave's screen is filled up with this red mush of everything that's out of focus. The camera literally screams at him to tell him to focus. And it's a very difficult thing to see through all that mush to get the tiny little animal like this. The fact that you got it, before the sun went down, or tomorrow, or the next day even, is amazing. So thank you, David. So there they're socializing. So, Barbara, you said after hearing about the anal pasting habit of the dominant male mongoose, you're very glad that you are not a mongoose. I think everybody listening today shares that similar sentiment, and I know I do. I absolutely don't want to get anal pasted by my father at all, and I certainly don't want to anal paste my wife or my son. So a bizarre compulsion, completely alien to us, nonetheless real in the animal world and not too far away from where we are right now. These little guys have once again disappeared, have this habit of disappearing. I don't know where they're going to go. They will choose a different termite mound to sleep in every night, and they have these tiny little territories, I mean a couple of hectares. That's it. And they will have up to 30 burrows in this tiny little territory that they defend from other mongoose. And they will go to a different one every night. Sometimes coming back to the same one after a couple of nights, but swinging through these ones. And they do that to avoid predation. So while it is a danger going into a termite mound that's already inhabited by a snake, for them, I think the risk is worth it. They don't live there and have a snake come and catch them in their hole, in their burrow. And they'll also be eaten by things like jackal. They'll also be eaten by things like, a whole number of things. They're back again, Dave. They're messing you around. I think they're playing a hide-and-go-seek game with us. Up a bird, yeah. Joanne, you've asked an unanswerable question. You asked, how long does it take to build one of these termite mounds, and how many termites are in there? It is a question that has been raging around the natural world for an age. If you were watching a little bit earlier on in the show, you would have noticed a very large weeping boerbean tree that I was showing everybody on top of a termite mound. That tree, they grow incredibly slowly and was probably in the region of about 150 to 200 years old, growing on top of a termite mound. That termite mound, there's no doubt that the tree was growing on top. The mound didn't grow through the tree, for instance. As to how many termites in a termite mound like that, millions. Absolutely millions. I don't think anybody's ever counted a termite, the amount of termites in them, but definitely in the region of millions of termites per mound. And then a very interesting fact I heard the other day, whether true or not, I'm not too sure, but the total weight of termites in the Kruger National Park equals the biomass of mammals above it. So if you can imagine, all the elephants, all the rhino, all the buffalo, all the lion and leopard and impala and kudu equal the total mass of termites that live below the Kruger National Park. That is a staggering amount of termites. So yeah, I hope that answered your question, the unanswerable. And you have, that boerbean tree was 200 years old. Quite often you find tamboti trees on top of termite mounds that are 3 times the age of that particular boerbean. It's just so peaceful watching these little guys. They haven't really moved away from this mound. I think they're going to sleep here, and they foraged for the day. I've no doubt that they either did or didn't find enough food for today, and now they're just busy gleaning the last few insects that they can find around their den site for the night. But it all is just a bit of a social game. And then going to sleep again. Just before sunset, they'll disappear. They're actually quite late risers. By the time we get back from walk in the morning, 9 o'clock, 8:30 to 9:30, 9 o'clock, sometimes these little guys haven't even risen out of their beds just yet. And on really cold days, you see them suntanning. At 10 o'clock in the morning, you see them suntanning on their mounds, lying on their backs, enjoying the sun. So they're really, I don't know, if you were to come back as anything, coming back as a dwarf mongoose wouldn't necessarily be so bad. Apart from the fact that snakes and every eagle want to eat you. Now, Roger, you've asked me if there's any local species of mongoose that attack mambas. I gathered from, you heard the story same as I did, that Riki Tiki Tavi, the story or the folklore story, the fable of a mongoose attacking a snake or a cobra. And yes, in India they do pit mongoose against cobras. We see pictures of it all the time in vicious fights that they bet money on. Here, mongoose and meerkat will both, excuse me, just for breaking off there, I didn't mean to, there's just an alarm call going off on our behind us. Sounds like a bird though, so I'm going to carry on sitting here. They will mob snakes, absolutely. They join together and they shout at that snake. They can even nip at its flanks. As to killing it, I think that slender mongoose, definitely. Perhaps mellors, marsh mongoose, the Selous mongoose, all these solitary mongoose who don't have one another to rely on for food and for protection and for help, they definitely would go for a snake. A white-tailed mongoose would be big enough to take on something like a big snouted cobra, perhaps. These little guys, no. They would run away from a big snake like that, especially a mamba. I have watched mambas hunt squirrels and dwarf mongoose, so they definitely would form part of a mamba's diet. Whether they'd be able to affect any meaningful defense, I'm not too sure. I think no. I think that they'd get eaten very quickly by a mamba. Now you can see, there's easily about 5 or 6 of them there. I can't really see exactly how many. That one individual that was acting as a sentry, he still hasn't come back from wherever he's disappeared to. He ran off into the bush on the other side of us. Now we've got a francolin that's making an alarm call near us, but I think it's a predator. A predatory bird, I should say. So Kathy, all the way from Florida, you wanted to know if mongoose are related to meerkats. They certainly are. They're in the same family. I don't quite know how to, my taxonomy isn't that good, but they're definitely part of the carnivora, and then they are in a subgroup from that. I'm not too sure exactly how to... Herpistidae is what they are part of, and Herpistidae, I'm busy having a look at over here, is part of the larger let me see over here. Herpistidae, the family, and then carnivora, and from carnivora, Canidae. No, that is not them. So no, this book not giving me the taxonomy answer that I'm wanting. Not to worry, but yes, they are all part of the Herpistidae family, and from that you have suricates or meerkats and all your mongoose as well. They're all part of exactly the same thing. Slightly, the family or the order that I'm thinking of, I cannot remember it for the life of me as I'm sitting over here now. Also includes things like the honey badger, the civet, all the genets are also part of this particular family, and then they're all part of the broader carnivora family that lion and leopard and cheetah are all part of as well. So yes, they are with one another. All right, I think from now, let's carry on going. Let's see what else we can find. The day is starting to end. Thankfully, my face feels like it is on fire from the sun this afternoon. It's been a proper scorcher of a day, and it just seems that we've been traveling gradually north for most of the day. And obviously, with me turning over my left shoulder and looking at you, the western sun has just been beating into my face. But at least it'll make it shine nice in the dark. So, I've just been told by Lou that there's a beautiful breeding herd of elephant that is at the Jumapan right now. We're a little bit far away. We are right on the boundary with Torchwood, close to the cheetah cut line. So for us to get there before they move off is probably going to be a tall order. I definitely don't have the heavy accelerator foot that friend Brent has. But there's a dam camera there, and you can go and have a look at the dam cam views of those herds of ellies. I'm sure there's something fantastic for you to see there. Otherwise, I'm always here, yakking away. I want to go and have a look at what's in Buffelshoek Dam, or actually Buffelshoek Puddle, Buffelshoek Algae, I don't know what else to call it, sludge pool. See how dry that got today. I'm expecting an elephant or a rhino or a buffalo or something to come along and splash out the leftover mud, and in that sense it'll end Buffelshoek Dam. I was expecting it this morning already, but we didn't see anything going through there. Just one 3-banded plover that was busy pecking at, I don't even know what. I couldn't see him actually pick up a single insect, but nevertheless he did. Let's go this way. Lots of tracks here. Even baboon tracks. Fascinating the way that during this dry season baboons have managed to come back onto Djuma after being absent for quite a few years. We're starting to see baboons more and more regularly, hearing them in actual fact a lot more than what we're seeing them. Have a look at these game paths. This is what I'm talking about on this side. These are starting to be worn deeper and deeper as the season progresses. You can see here and going through there. And that is a game path. That is what animals use to and from feeding areas and water. And that would snake. Probably this particular game path snaking all the way through to Buffelshoek Dam. Right, but Brent has left the lions for some reason. I'm sure he wants to tell you why, so off you go. See you a bit.
So the ladies from Gallagher camp were getting ready, making a fire, and they saw a male leopard drinking at the pan, and we were very close by, but we just weren't quick enough. But it looks like he headed west. So he couldn't have gone too far north because that's where the lions are. The lions are very close here. So we're just going to go very slowly and just check a little bit further down Gallagher shortcut. So he was seen coming west through here, so keep your eyes peeled. What we want to do is we're looking for that little white tip of tail. It's one of the best ways to spot a leopard when it's on the move. The other way is to listen. Now, I wonder which leopard this could be. It could be Tingana. So on that direction that the lady is pointing in, it should be popping out sort of this area. Although the lions are right here. Listening for bird alarm calls, squirrels. It's amazing what a difference a minute or two makes sometimes. Let's just go a little bit further down. We'll turn around and head back towards the pan. Maybe he's just stopped somewhere close by for a snooze. Now, this is where the lions are, just here. Now, X-Rang is saying that kangaroos often stamp their feet on the ground to let the other animals know that there is danger. Are there any African animals that do that? Well, not to my knowledge. They generally use alarm calls, barks, snorts, trumpets, those type of things. Now, I doubt that leopard would have come. Well, it's not impossible. I have seen leopards sneak up and have a look at sleeping lions before. But I think discretion would be the better part of valor here. So I've got to assume he's pushed further to the south. The lions are just here, probably 100 meters in there, on the edge of the little river system there. Come on, leopard. Be nice to see a leopard. Those lions and some really thick bush there. Didn't see any tracks crossing. For me, this is the type of area where you pop out. Let's just have a quick look. Any tracks here? Nope. So maybe he's just gone flat close to where the waterhole is. So he could have easily laid down in this section of thickets here to the right of me. We might have actually been ahead of him. Now the big problem is there's quite a few different routes he could take out of here. Where are you hiding, Mr. Leopard? What I think I'm going to go do is I want to see his tracks for myself. What do you think, Brian? Yeah, better than second-hand informations. He could also just have moved just out of sight of the pan and gone flop. Yeah, just having a quick listen. Thought I heard some go-away birds there. Okay, so I want to go back to where those exact last tracks were. Make sure he isn't just snoozing close by. Let's try to figure out which path he departed on. And then we can figure out which way to go. This is where he came in from. But while we try to figure out exactly what's going on here, let's go back to Steph at the Buffalo's Hook Waterhole.
And we are at the Buffalo's Hook Waterhole, and the hippo that was in his perfect pond at Vulture yesterday, and in this Buffalo's Hook cesspool the day before, has now returned to his jacuzzi. And I can only imagine that there's something in this mud that he's really enjoying. There he is over there. He wasn't here this morning, so he was seen earlier this morning by someone on our camera at Vulture with an injury. So he's obviously walked from there in the middle of the day or during the game drive, and he's now come to plop himself back into this mud. And for a reason I cannot know, today was an absolute scorcher of a day, and although he is covered in some mud, that must be, in actual fact, it actually has got to be quite comforting. I remember fondly as a boy in about 1996, a friend of mine and I took a mud bath in a puddle that was there from some flooding that had occurred in the area, and we ended up lying in this mud puddle the whole afternoon. These two boys, stark naked, lying in this mud puddle, enjoying the rain coming down intermittently, and it was actually quite nice. The mud sort of buoys you up. I'm going down a path now I don't want to. It's like one of those things, the more I speak, the deeper the spade my tongue becomes. I'm going to go forward a little bit just so we can get the picture of this hippo a little bit better, and then also note on how many doves are around this particular pan again. Similar to yesterday at Vulture, we had this influx of birds and doves. And there you can see all of these Cape turtle doves that are coming down. I mean, it's not to drink. There's no water there. And yesterday, similarly, at Vulture, they weren't drinking. They were just standing on the sand next to the pan. There's a bird there. There's a patch of birds here in the bottom corner. Every now and again, one turns itself upside down in a hollow there, and I can't see if it's got water in it. Let's just look there for a bit. See, there we go. That bird is upside down in that pan. I don't know if he's drinking or not. They can't drink upside down. Maybe there's some type of seed or mineral that's leaching out of the mud. I don't know. An interesting unknown phenomenon. Very peaceful here. Our beard, hi, you've asked, do hippos ever get stuck in the mud? Please excuse me, folks, I got a frog stuck in my throat. It's okay. I'm sure it won't be terminal. You've asked me if hippos ever get stuck in the mud, and to be honest, I've never heard of hippos being stuck in the mud. They are negatively buoyant, so they don't sink, neither do they float. So they basically can walk underwater at about the same speed as they can on land. And with their short little legs, with their 4 toes that can splay open, and with their bellies that are so wide and can support their weight on the mud, I think it would be quite difficult to sink a hippo, actually. That and their ecological function in a food web is to keep waterways dredged and open, so they're almost perfectly suited, probably from an evolutionary point of view, to not get stuck in mud. So I think, albeit, I think I'd like to say that if it was an exam question, I would probably say that no, they cannot get stuck in mud. I mean, there's always the chance that they do, but I've never seen it, I've never heard of it, and just me thinking about it a little bit cancels it out of my options list. There's some that are drinking now, some doves that are drinking now from an elephant's footprint. The water seeped there, and they definitely are drinking. Very characteristic. Sucking water up, and then... Are they really? I never knew birds could actually drink upside down. Having owned a few pet birds in my time, I've always watched birds dredge water basically and then lift up their chins basically to swallow. These birds, they're all upside down, staring at their, maybe what they're doing is they're staring at their reflections in the water. Let's see what this one does. He's a new arrival. She's a new arrival. Down to the puddle. There we go. Definitely in the water. I see the wings, I see the mouth opening and closing. Another new arrival. I would have to say that these doves are probably drinking upside down. I never knew birds could do that. That is an interesting observation. You can see that bird won't lift up and drink. There you go, just looking around. Ah, Brent's found that leopard that he's been looking for. Awesome.
Oh, you can just make him out. We actually found him on foot. So we went to go look at the last tracks, and while we were walking, he popped out in front of us. Let me try to go back a little bit. So I think it's Tingana. This is the first time I've seen him properly. I didn't have the best look while we were on foot. I raced back to the car. But it does look like Mr. T. Hey, big boy. On the march, and he is a great marcher, Mr. Tingana. So I feel quite lucky to have found him. Often we find his tracks going through the whole of Djuma overnight. He's not desperately hungry, but he could definitely eat. Are we behind us? We good? We good? Looks like he might head back towards the pan. It could be because there were some elephants around there. Might have chased them off while he was still having his drink. And he definitely doesn't want to go back behind him because that's where the whole Nkahuma pride are. And we're just going to get up here, see where he goes. Let's just park over here. Let's just see where he goes from here. And then we can decide what our plan is going to be. So he's going to pop out in that little gap there shortly. Oh, has he gone flat? Mm-hmm. Well, it looks like he might have stopped there. See where he's laid down. So if we look in front of Aubrey's car, he's decided to go flat there. So we're going to move around to where we can get a view of him. Oh no, he's up and moving again. He's going to come up behind us. Ah, there we go. See, if we just stayed in the same spot we wanted to, there you go, you got a gap, Brian? There he is. Now, as you can see, Mr. T is still limping. He's been limping for quite a while, and Arjun was wondering, that's it. So he has been limping. It's got much better. It's not unusual for these animals to have a limp. They do lead a very, very physical life. But by no means does it look like it's hampering him at all. He's still looking in splendid condition. Well, thanks, Raisa. Raisa says, always so great to see a leopard. Well done for finding him. Well, we've got to thank the ladies at Gallagher. Without them, we wouldn't have even known he was here. We would have been sitting next to a fat, sleepy lion. Worst ways to spend the day, though. Now, I wonder where he's going to go from here. Looks like he might head straight back to the pan. Or he might keep in this little gully that goes down towards in front of Vulture camp. I think he's going to go into these thickets where we had Karula not so long ago. Well, and he's going to lie down again. Terry's wondering, why does it seem that leopard eye color varies more than lion eye color? Well, they're different species, and I could not give you one straight answer. Even though there is variance in the eye color of lion and leopard, it's not that, sorry, within leopards, I mean, it's not that noticeable. I mean, it's green, but it's still gold green, or it's brown, but it's still gold brown. So that golden eye color is the predominant color that sticks. That comes to mind when one thinks of leopards. Now, Shannon is wondering, can a leopard outrun a lion or lioness? They can. They are slightly faster. They probably don't have quite the same stamina as a lion, so they'll generally run very fast and then try escape up a tree. Chi-Town Connie would like to know, what does the name Tingana mean? Well, when he was first seen, he was quite unrelaxed around the vehicles, so Tingana means the shy one. There you go, he's on the move again. Oh, he's going into some difficult country now. So I'm just going to let Aubrey go past us and then I will follow on. But he's going to be heading down towards the head of the Moati River, which flows past the front of Vulture camp. While we try, see if we can get another look at Mr. T, let's go to Steph, who's got a glorious African sunset.
You know, I have to applaud my teammate Brent Leo Smith on his tenacity and perseverance and skill at finding these animals. It really is amazing. And yes, we've got a bit of a sunset going on. We had the sunrise this morning. You shared it with us, and or some of you shared it with us. Others get to share the sunset with us, and it'll be gone in literally the next couple of seconds. As fast as what the sun rises here, the sun sets. And we've got this quite stiff breeze blowing at the moment. That sun is still a little bit too intense for me to look at it directly. It's still leaving, I have probably about 77,000 suns every time I blink now in my vision. So I'm still watching it the same as you through the television screen for now. Isn't that beautiful with those trees in the foreground? Just see the breeze blowing the leaves that we have. Heralds something, some or other type of front, although there's not a cloud in the sky. Not even one single one. You'll watch that sun set now. You'll be able to mark its passage on that tree that it's just behind, or behind. You'll see that it'll disappear. On one edge now will disappear. There we go. Ooh. Inevitable is the word I like to use. There's just nothing you can do to stop that. It's been going since the very, very beginning, will be until the very end. Some say that we've got another 4.5 billion years of energy left in that sun before it swells up and engulfs us, and whoever is left on the planet at that stage. Can you just imagine what it's going to be like? For the first 4.5 billion, everything you're seeing around you, everything that you've experienced with us, everything that we see every day, will just carry on going for another 4.5 billion years. My mind just wants to explode thinking about that. Almost gone. I don't even know what the time is now, but it's probably approaching around about 5:30 or so. Just after 5:30. Oh, 25 to 6 actually. And tomorrow morning you'll be able to watch the sun rise with us at probably 25 past 6 or somewhere around there. Probably not as late as 25 past 6, but anyway, the sun is about to go down. Enough of my musing over that. Say farewell to the sun. Last couple of seconds, and there it goes. Gone. Just leaving us with this very rosy glow. So Deb, all the way in Ohio, has asked me two different questions. Do we find mupani trees in this area, and is anthrax a recurrence in the drought? So on your first question, Deb, not exactly where we are right now do we find any mupanis, but they're not too far away. The mupani belt that we have around us literally starts in the Timbavati, which is on the other side of the Manyeleti, which is maybe 20 kilometers. Less than 20 miles away from where we are, we start seeing the first mupani. And to your other question, anthrax, this is the time when anthrax comes about. Anthrax is an ancient bacterial spore and basically is transferred through vultures and hyenas and a couple of vectors. It's a heavy spore. And what it does is it gets washed to the bottom of these pans, similar to Buffelshoek Dam, like this. And in low areas, so in areas like this and like that, where animals come and drink, that is where you find anthrax spores are concentrated. And with there only being this water that you see here and little patches of water like we saw where those birds were drinking, that is where the anthrax spores will be at their most concentrated. The ruminants will come and drink water. They will pick up the spore. They die from anthrax. Their bodies get opened by vultures and hyenas, and then the cycle goes around. They pick up those spores. They then come and wash off and drink inside dams and bits and pieces of water, wherever it is. That anthrax spore washes off of them back into the water, and the cycle starts again. So does that answer your question, I suppose, as to will we see anthrax this year? I don't know. Some years are worse than others. Dry years tend to be much worse than wet years. However, you know, you just don't know. I would expect that anthrax will come about. We'll start seeing it from now, from these dried up pans all the way through to the first rains, as soon as the water rises again past where these spores are harbored. But yeah, it's a naturally occurring thing. It's not something that's been chemically or genetically engineered to kill us. And while we can get it, I wouldn't want to go rummage around in any dead Impala or Kudu or giraffe that I see, or even buffalo. And I definitely wouldn't want to give a vulture a hug anytime between now and about January, or ever in actual fact, but most specifically between now and about January. There's really no, there's no danger for us out here. It's just, we just don't touch carcasses, that's all. So you become a little bit more wary about what you do and how you pick up things. Like from now, we won't be picking up any bones, digging around in any carcasses, and we'll wait for the first rains to wash off those spores. I've just noticed something that I haven't seen at all, but the sunset was shared with us by two vervet monkeys sitting at the top of a tree in the background there. So if you zoom in just left a bit into that tree in the middle there, yes, the monkeys are, now I've got to try and find them for you. Which tree are we in? There we go. So that one there, Dave. There you go. There's two vervet monkeys that are sitting in the tree that has just enjoyed the sunset similar to us. Yeah. You probably find that that's the dominant pair of vervets in that particular family, and it's just mom and dad sharing a gin and tonic, watching the sun go down, exactly what you should be doing in Africa. Very, very cool. Andrew's asked me a question, which is my favorite, sunset or sunrise? Andrew, I actually enjoy both sunset and sunrises. They have such different feelings. This morning I had this feeling of anticipation. I didn't know what to expect. There were tracks around. I could hear the bush around me. It was a build-up of excitement. It was this build-up of just a lot of positive building things. By the end of the day, watching a sunset like this, and after we've had a busy day like we've had, and we're successful, we've found some lion, we've found some leopard, we've had an awesome afternoon, nothing's broken, I always feel this calming sense. So I like both. They're both, for me, completely different from one another. One is a build-up of excitement and a build-up of tension. but in a good way. The other one is this release of stress and this sort of just relaxing feeling. So they're both very different from one another. I like both, even though they're both similar and generate different feelings in me. I hope that answered your question there, Andrew. Do you have a favorite, a sunrise or sunset? Let me know. I'll share it with everybody if you want. Otherwise, feel free to just comment on how you feel around sunsets and sunrises. Now, this hippo hasn't even flicked an ear. Let's go forward a little bit more. So our beard has just commented that sunrise is his favorite. Now, I feel with you. I think a lot of people enjoy sunrise. It's just such a pity around the world not too many people get to, or not too many urbanized people. Let me change that. Not too many urbanized people get to enjoy sunrise. It's just such a rush. I just want to show everybody those two vervet monkeys now. We haven't got the camera that has that punch-in zoom. We just got one of our older, better cameras, the vintage camera. RBS just re-commented and said that it's mostly because he's lazy that he sees far more of the sunrises than he does the sunsets. You can see those monkeys are huddled over, just keeping warm at the moment. Sun is down, their evening vigil starts. I see that the one on the right-hand side has a youngster. And the youngster is being groomed. So the one on the right-hand side, which looks a little bit swollen, that is a baby that's tucked in. The one on the left, I'm not quite sure why it is such an amorphous mass, but I can't see, my binoculars are not big enough. I think it's just the way it's facing us. Although there could be 4 monkeys there, each one holding on to a parent. Doesn't that just look so awesome? 2 monkeys sitting on a branch, watching the sun go down. There, definitely. You can see now the 2 heads, all 4 heads separated there. Watching us, watching them. So they're just holding on to one another for what seems to be a blustery evening in store. That's just really cool. Alrighty. Let's get going. I was around about this time of the evening. It actually was a little bit later than this that the first of the sandgrouse rocketed into Vulture. I doubt there's going to be any sandgrouse coming here. I mean, you never really know, to be honest. I mean, those doves came in at almost exactly the same time that the doves came in yesterday to Vulture to come and drink upside down or whatever they were doing in the mud over here. Mr. Hippo, I hope you have a good evening. I was wanting to see today if your injury, I could see what injured you. He's potentially here because of the lions last night. They may have harassed him a little bit. And that forced him then to run here. I just see his pink eyelid. There on the left-hand side, you'll notice every now and again his eye blink, and only his eyelid literally doesn't have mud on it. There you can see the eyelid, the pink eyelid. Shame. You know, I mustn't laugh at this poor guy. Oh, I cannot imagine how difficult life needs to be or is for these guys right now. Unappealing. Good luck, Mr. Hippo. Enjoy your evening. All right, and on that note, and because we are going to get going now into this wind, it would be a good thing to send you over to Brent, who's got an update for you.
So unfortunately, Tingana went almost on the exact same route that Karula did a few days ago into an impenetrable river system. So we're trying to sneak our way back to where did we go through last? Oh, must have been through there. To where that male lion was, but he looks like he's moved. see a gap through there. Now, I wonder if the rest of the pride have moved as well. If so, I think it's going to be quite difficult to find them again, especially in this area. Oh no, there he is. You see it, Brian? There he is, hiding behind a tree. Okay, let's pop through there. Oh, none of the pride have moved as well. They're all lying through there. That's them there. Oh, head up. Hello, fatty. Yes, we're back. I wish there was a way to get into where the cubs are. Unfortunately, there isn't. So we've been having some incredible sightings of the Nkahumas, Birminghams and the cubs. Andy in Kentucky is saying he's really been enjoying all the cub sightings we've been having. But are all of them expected to make it? If that was the case, Andy, it'd be very, very uncommon. Normally in this part of the world, lion cubs have about a 70% mortality rate. So only 30% are expected to make it. But we are in a drought, so there's a good chance that that rate will go up. There's plentiful food. Another thing that's sitting well is the Birmingham boys are about 6 years old, so in their prime, it's unlikely that another coalition of males is going to be able to challenge them for their territory. Now, the biggest killer of lion cubs is male lions during pride takeovers and changeovers. So during the coalition changeovers, that's when most cubs get killed. And they'll kill any cub under 3 years. I'm just going to try to move a little bit forward. That one lioness has got her head up. We've got a gap through there, Brian. There we go. Now that's the youngest Nkahuma lioness who has got the attentions of the Birmingham boys at the moment. And the rest of the pride and cubs are just off to her left. We can't really see though, unfortunately. They're about, where's my finger? Oh, I've lost my hand. More left, ah, there. They're in there. All spread out through there. Right on the edge of this little gully system. Now, like all the big cats, lions have a very short gestation period. Emma was asking that. It's between 90 to 110 days. And if they lose cubs, they come into estrus very, very quickly after that as well. Sometimes within a week of losing cubs, they'll be mating again. He's phlegm grimacing from the ground. Lazy, lazy lion. Oh, at least he's raised his head a little bit. That's the other Birmingham boy who's here at the moment. Now, yawning, grooming is generally a precursor to movement, and we are getting to that time of the day. Oh, get lost, you. She's been trying to avoid his attentions for the last 3 days, but with not much success. Now, they are quite hungry, so hopefully they have a successful hunt this evening. Oh, big yawn. Now, Mia in Illinois is saying, do lionesses have a preference for scarred males versus non-scarred males? No, Mia, they have a preference for who's the most dominant. And in a male lion coalition, that changes constantly. There is some research to say they prefer darker maned males, but at the end of the day, a male lion who's the most aggressive and is able to push off the other suitors wins. Now, the theory behind the dark manes is that the darker the mane, the higher the testosterone level. Oh, big yawn. Oh, he rolled over. Yes, he did. That immediately grabbed the attention of the other two. Oh, there we go. You can hear a bit of growling. I think he might get snapped at. What he's doing is he's moving himself between the lioness and the other male. So silly. Can you hear the cubs, Brian?
No, just hardly does.
Oh, you can just make out the cubs. There we go. In the background there. They're also starting to get moving. So I wonder if the Nkuhumas are going to have success on this windy night. Windy nights are better for the big cats to hunt. Well, Jay Atkinson is wondering how lions manage to keep their teeth so clean. Well, if you actually were to have a closer inspection, they're not that clean at all, Jay. But it's just probably from use and a pure protein diet. So quite often teeth are stained. If you look at a buffalo or giraffe, Impala, it gets stained by the vegetable matter that they eat. So with a pure protein diet, they don't really get those stains on them. But if you look closely, they're not teeth. They're not very clean. They've got plaque. So we're going to sit here, see if there's anything happening with the Nkuhumas and Birminghams. While we do that, let's go across to Steph so he can bid you a fond farewell.
Thank you very much, Brent. I'm very jealous you guys have seen and found most of the animals today. And but all applause to you for that one. And that is exactly that. It's come to the end of the safari. It's come to the end of the evening and the end of the day. And I just want to say on behalf of probably... Oh, hang on. So Scott in Durban has said I'm obviously going to be very sick tomorrow, and that he's offered to come and drive himself in my place while I die of consumption or TB or something else that I'm going to get over the evening. Scott, you're welcome to, if you can run here from Durban between now and tomorrow. I'll be expecting you for breakfast. But no, anyway, thank you very much. Thanks for the care, Scott. That's quite kind of you. I'm sure I'll be okay. I hope I'll be okay. But anyway, on that note, I'm going to say goodbye from myself and David. I have to say thank you very, very much for all your support again this afternoon. Thank you very much for all the questions and tolerating all my coughing and spluttering and croaking and all the little mistakes that we all do. Thank you very much for your support again for the SafariLIVE product and for Wild Earth. And we'll catch you tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock Central Africa time.
I'm going to spend our last moments of today's sunset safari with the lions, and hopefully they'll have a successful hunting evening and we'll catch up with them on the sunrise safari as well. Now, I think Tingana did exactly what Karula did not that long ago, and actually jumped into the camp. From where we were, we couldn't really see, so maybe he's after camp bushbuck tonight. That'll make Brian happy, because they are the pilferers of his sunflowers. Oh, and he's going to follow her into the excuse me, darkness, and we are left with one very lazy lion. So let's reverse back. Valeria in Massachusetts says, since I got the fox quiz right at the beginning of the safari, I would like to get another look at the fox thumb. And I thought foxes are scared of lions, Brian.
A little bit.
So I think that fox thumb's hiding in its hole at the moment.
We'll be out there.
Maybe it'll pop its head up just now, just before the end of the show. Maybe not. It is close to a big cat, and foxes are scared of big cats. I still think this Birmingham is playing it smart, waiting for that female to actually get into estrus before putting all the effort in. So I think when she's actually ready to start mating, he's going to charge in, chase the other guy away who's doing all the technish work, and then claim the mating spoils. But we're about to end today's sunset safari. It's been wonderful having you with us, and we will be doing this all again in a few short hours on the sunrise safari. Hopefully lots of lions and leopards about. Maybe Tingana will still be on Juma. Oh, wait, what's that? It is a fox in Africa, in southern Africa. Isn't that incredible? If I remember correctly, Vulpus, the red fox. But from the red fox, Brian and myself, toodaloo till tomorrow.